putting it in my song, singing loud and strong, moving all day long. I'm begging my freedom, putting it in my stroll. I'll be hot stepping, y'all, letting the joy unfold. I'm living my life like it's golden, 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 golden.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Saturday, December 9th, 2023, and it's time for Nonprofit Cheat Codes.
I'm strumming my own freedom, playing the God in me, representing His glory. Hope He's proud of me. Hope He's proud.
Mr. Moore, how we doing this morning?
I'm good, man. On the road.
Where we going?
And take this thing on location. We're going to the Christmas place.
To the Christmas place? Say it one more time, G. Good morning, Jessica. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning. Pretty good.
Good stuff. Good morning, Lanique. Good morning, Tiffany. Happy to have you guys with us this morning. Let's get things rolling and kicked off. This week, we are going to chop it up a little bit about a topic that a lot of people are dealing with this time of year, which is the holidays and stress, but specifically how that relates to nonprofit founders. So if our populations and the people we serve are going through a lot of stress, then many times we inherit that stress ourselves and we actually bring that into the work we do. So how are you self-caring? How are you taking care of your team, taking care of yourself, and taking care of your mission at this time of year? With all this good cheer and all this love and giving and compassion, it can also be extremely stressful this time of the year. Good morning, Tiffany. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing awesome. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks.
Good. Happy to have you here. If you ride with us for a second here, we're getting the show kicked off, and then we will get into questions and commentary, but let's get rolling.
The Mike Jordan, the rap, Mike Jackson, the pop. The Mike Tyson, the street airs with no socks. The Hugh Hefner, the game, yeah, and it won't stop. Till I meet the Lord Pro for the hood, it's all good. The Spielberg, when I spill words to track. I'm a sick dude, you can't feel worse than that. For you slow-minded dudes, I reverse it back. I got a sick flow, see, ain't no nurse in that. But mommy, if you rock my world, I get you the baby bucket. You can be my baby rock girl. The white Nike Airs, we call them wifey ears. Size 4 or 5, how cute is your size? That new cute bubble, give you horses to drive. I paint that picture, cause ain't no like the one you get from Mike Holler.
I don't think they're ready for this one.
My life will never be the same. Cause girl, you came and changed the way I walk, the way I talk. I cannot explain the things I feel for you. But girl, you know it's true. Stay with me, I feel my juice, and I'll be all you need. Feel so right, girl.
I guess I ain't got no reason to mingle round. I found a superwoman that could leap from the truck in a single bound. Mommy, I'm trying to bling you down. So without shades on, can't say it when I bring you round. She put her lips on the then pull it to work her tongue and make me faster than a speeding bullet. Her love stronger than a locomotive, but only for the FABOLOUS. Sing to me, ma.
All right, folks, before we do our formal introductions and stuff, let's kick it off with a little bit of things we call weekly wins. Mr. Moore, are you there, sir? Are you ready to kick us off with your weekly wins? What are your weekly wins
I
this
am
week?
here.
Let's go.
I am here. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I hear you sharp.
Win of the week, man. Yo, those DAF checks keep coming in, man. I got 2 more DAF checks and for $500 each. So
Now, hold on. Now,
I think
you got
I'm on to
to
something.
explain what that is now. People got to know what you're talking about.
So a DAF is a direct something. Just go driving. So Fidelity has this app. So if you look up Fidelity DAF, DAF, look up
DAF.
Fidelity DAF,
Okay.
and nonprofits can register so that people who do I forget what Amit told me the actual term was, the reg. What is it, Mike? The reg. What's the A stand for? I'm driving, man. Come on.
Direct. Say it one
Come
more
on,
time,
support
so I get it now.
DAF, DAF.
DAF. Direct.
So Fidelity DAF.
Fidelity
anyway,
DAF. Okay, we're gonna look it
I
up.
signed up for it earlier in the year,
Okay.
and then they give you a widget to put on your website.
Okay.
But what happens is people who have these direct automated accounts that they're donating to charity, you're in the system, so then they can just select charities and just send you checks.
Donor advised funds. Donor advised funds. Yes.
I couldn't pull it out. I just off a fresh batch of oatmeal,
Good stuff.
so I couldn't pull it out. So I've gotten 5 DAF checks so far, and just people get a chance. You're in a database somewhere, and people get a chance to see what you do and decide whether they're going to contribute to your organization or not. And it's the end of the year, so people are doing their tax preparations and stuff and need to put some funds someplace. So win of the week, I got a couple more DAF checks. So
Good
I'm excited about
stuff.
that.
We're gonna shout that out for sure. And I'm gonna drop in the chat really quick. Let me see if I can get it here. If it'll cross devices here. It's probably way long, but I'm putting it in there. So that is a direct link to how to sign your charity up for the Fidelity Donor Advised Fund. So if you have never heard of that, check it out, or at least look at that link and do a little research on it. Good stuff, Gerald. Any other wins of the week?
Wins of the week, man. About to jump off this joint, get my family to the Christmas place safe, and that's my win of the week.
Wins of the week. So
binge watching Black Cake with the wife, man.
What's the name of it?
Win. Black Cake.
Black Cake. I don't know
Black
about that
Cake.
one.
Black Cake on Hulu.
Okay, I got to check it
Binge
out.
watch Black Cake with the wife. Win of the week.
I got to check that out. Jessica, you want to share any wins of the
Pretty
week?
good show. Excuse me?
I was saying
Oh,
Jessica.
I'm coming through here. Yes, I have some new partnerships that have unfolded, and a lot of foundational work I've been doing this year seems to all be cropping up now, which is amazing. I have a new relationship with charitable real estate and some ways that's going to touch us into some projects and create some cash flow. So I'm excited about it.
Good stuff. That's awesome. So is this something you've been working on for a while? Or is this something brand new?
Kind of brand new. Dr. Kirk put it on my radar to learn about it when he heard I was pursuing my real estate license.
Okay.
You don't have to be licensed to work with it.
Okay.
But I recently had those meetings and calls with her, and it just makes total sense. So actually, I'd love to create an intro for our group here to learn about it and maybe some timely opportunities there.
Good stuff. Okay, we definitely keep us posted and bring us into an understanding of what it is and how we can support you and maybe obviously gain something ourselves. Good stuff. Good morning, Tiff. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks.
Good. Oh, I'm sorry, Tiffany. I was talking about the other Tiffany who just popped into the room. I apologize. It's all good. Tiffany Allen, how are you doing this morning?
Oh.
No worries. No worries.
Oh, yeah, I was going to let you go. Good morning, everybody. I'm good. How you doing?
I am doing very well. Very happy to be here. Good Saturday. Sun is shining. everything's on deck. Got my prep done, got my gym done, feeling really good. Got my prayer done. Got everything is going in a good direction this morning. I'm feeling good about that. So, Tiffany, do you want to kick off a win of the week, Miss Allen? Any wins of the week?
Ooh.
Now you don't got deep dig that deep. You got wins of the week all over the place. Blessed and highly favored.
I am blessed. I don't know if there's anything particular this week. How about I just made it through the week?
That's the
That's a
win.
blessing. That's a
Absolutely.
win.
Yes. We gonna take that. Absolutely.
I've been able to take more control over my schedule, and I've been working with the new assistant, and she's great. So I'll leave that there. That's a win.
Good stuff. Good morning, Amit. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm going very well. Things are going in a good direction, brother. What are wins of the week? We on wins of the week.
Sorry, a little bit late.
No, you're fine. I'm throwing you right in there. What are your wins of the week this week?
Wins of the week. Well, I completely will jump on with Tiffany just to make it through the week. It's been a busy week. Markets are really kind of crazy, so that's getting through these weeks
Right.
is a good thing. I'm trying to ease into the Christmas. You know what I mean? But I would say my win of the week. You know, one of my best friends from high school is in town, and we're gonna hang out, and that's really kind of cool. You know, it's always a fun weekend when that happens. And he's visiting Rochester, and so that's my win of the week. You know.
Well, I think that's a big deal, right? And I know
friends from back in the day, right?
Well, I know
Right?
you're just a good
treat for
friend
me.
in general, Amit. So I'm sure it really is a good thing to see someone that you grew up with or went to school, and a former classmate is a big deal. So that's good stuff. Like, really good stuff.
Yeah, no, and it's really a blessing because I don't know. You know, the thing is, you and Gerald obviously talk all the time, so that's really great, right? That you have that friendship,
right?
For all these years, right?
Right.
And so I see my high school friends as well. I still live in this area, as everyone knows. So I see them as well. But this is one of these guys that doesn't live here. He lives in Florida, and so it's a special treat. But you know, it's like you got a friend circle where I don't know if anyone can relate with this, but it's like you might not have seen each other for a while, you know, and then within 2 minutes you're just completely reconnected. You know,
right.
it
you
doesn't
never missed
matter
a
the
beat.
span of time.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it's just like that's a nice feeling. That's just like sort of like nice feeling.
That tells you a lot about the dynamic of the relationship and the chemistry that you have between your friends or family or loved ones in general. So I think that's good stuff, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, it's up here for a funeral, so we can't turn it up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking to turn it up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can't, Amit, but it's some folks that would make a difference. We mourn in the morning, we turn up in the evening.
That's right. Well, I can still turn it. To be clear, I can turn it up. Unfortunately, he's here for a funeral and he's tied up for later in the day. But later in the day, but in the evening, there's another story. So we'll have to see. But no, I think I think one thing that you kind of all get from me is that having friends and family, and my family's a small family. You know what I mean? I wish I had a larger family. And unfortunately, I've just visited my sister, which is really great. My brother's here in town, but that's it. That's all the family that I have here. And having a nice circle of friends is nice. And it's sort of really, I don't want to sound too corny and overplay it, but it really does. You know what I mean? It does enrich my life.
Well, let me interject. Let me interject there just a little bit. I'm going to take the Gerald Moore school of comments here. Let's see. If Gerald Moore was here, he would say, "Amit, now you can impact that bigger family if you really want to. You gotta. It's some strategies that you can use, and we can get you a bigger family."
I know. No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So
and that's one of my goals is to reach out to my family in India and get back on. I was just talking about that with my sister. But speaking of Gerald, I was able to catch up with Gerald last week. He was in Rochester, and anyway, so we had a great time as always. Watched a little bit of football, chopped it up, talked a little strategy, had a couple laughs. It's always nice to see Gerald, of course, and I'm just again grateful that through this medium, through Clubhouse, I was able to meet people like Gerald, and become their friend, and just have some fun and really glad to see the good stuff that's going on. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking about Friends and all that stuff. So that's my win of the week, and look forward to the show.
Friendsgiving. We're going to go back to Friendsgiving. We go back a couple weeks.
Okay.
Good stuff. No,
Okay.
I appreciate it. I receive it. And Tiffany, I'm trying to get your last name. Tiffany Jones. Do you have a win of the week that you can share? Something that big or small that was something that you consider a win this week? Are you there, Miss Jones? Are you there?
Okay, I was like, is it me?
It's you, Jones.
Oh my God. Yay. I'm just, being here is the win of the week. And I
I'll take
am,
that.
this is my first holiday season as an official 501c3.
Awesome.
So I'm excited to go through it and, I be here and learn and soak it all up. Thanks.
So that's good stuff. And I hope today is good information and some good feedback and a good conversation around that, being a new 501c3. Congratulations. Very proud of you. And I just want to shout out to our Clubhouse audience really quick. So good morning, Tanisha. Always good to see you doing amazing work. Good morning, Brother Yuri. I haven't seen you in a long time, my man. I hope everything is well. I got to check you out. I haven't been on your social medias in a while, and I'm so happy to see you here. Always good when you come into the space. And let me tap in down here a little bit for Major Daughter. I'm not reading it right. I'm just kind of glancing on what this title says here. Good morning to you as well. Happy to have you here with us. So I'm going to give my wins of the week. My wins of the week. If you're online, you see me in the live stream. If you're on the channels, we're on Facebook Live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X, and LinkedIn Live. And I'm wearing my new MSI Brand Academy shirt. This week was a win for that. I was able to launch our first small cohort, and I'm doing some testing right now. This month, I'm doing some testing before we do our full launch next month. And what MSI Brand Academy is in the new facility we have, it's called MSI Brand Labs. And we have imaging, photography studio, and imaging studio. We have consulting space, and then we have classroom space. And what I'm focused on doing there is really sewing into entrepreneurs and small business owners in a real intimate, small space where we can do trainings, where we can do classroom space, and really pour into them with different information and different skill sets, from social media management to customer segmentation to website strategies to story branding, across the board when it comes to marketing and branding. And we're going to do some real deep impouring. And this week was an amazing week to share that experience with my first official cohort. Had a great time. We do just a 2-hour class last week. I feed the folks. I try to give them information. Last week, I was a little bit less formal and was just kind of get to know you session. And what I'm trying to do is at least once a week, going into the new year, I'm going to have cohorts for 4 weeks at a time. The reason why this is a big deal for me, I'm going to give myself the horns here a little bit, is because from the pandemic, I'm a former teacher. I've been a corporate trainer, entrepreneur for over 25 years. A lot of hats I've wore in this last 50 years, but I have missed that face-to-face one-to-one. So you could even consider it to fall in that lane of group coaching. All right. But it's that classroom environment, but cohorts. So more than just hearing me talk the whole, as I'm sure you guys get my long-windedness here, the cohort where they really can interject, they can really interact, and they're learning far more from each other than probably from me, and I'm actually learning from them in the same way, and working in a leadership capacity to kind of navigate, moderate, and be a lead instructor in that space. So that's been a real big win, and I'm super excited for what's coming in the next weeks and months. And I think it's just a great way to pour into small business owners and nonprofit founders in a face-to-face. So what'll happen going into the new year, I'll have face-to-face, but we'll also have live streams. So people who sign up for our subscription or sign up for our cohorts don't have to be local, but people local get a little extra. You get some food and you get some extra edutainment. So I just want to spit that out there and share that. That was something that I'm really proud of this week. And this countdown comes. Tiffany, how many more weeks do we have in this year? I know we winding down. I've been looking at your really good content, Miss Allen. What are you on front facing as far as this countdown becomes? What should nonprofits be thinking about going into these last couple of weeks of the year?
Well, first of all, we can't just gloss by your first week launching your cohort. So I want to say congratulations, Mike,
Thank
for
you.
finding a space because I know you've been waiting a long time for your
God
space.
knows. Yes.
And congratulations on
Thank you.
launching. I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to come see it.
Come on.
Um, I actually am going to come.
Okay.
Trust me.
I'm ready.
But I can share some stuff I sent in an email this morning to my list. There's some things you could do before the end of the year or thinking about doing for the end of the year. I love this time because it's a time for reflection and gratefulness and like looking back on what happened this year. So some things you should be doing, you should look at the services that you're using and see what's effective and what's not. So too many times we sign up for things. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. You sign up for stuff and you're not using it. So it's a good time to like look back at what are the services that you signed up for? Is it useful? Are you duplicating it with another service and then canceling some stuff? And the reason why I'm saying that is because I just onboarded a new coaching client and she has been paying for an accountant who has been filing 941 forms for her. But those are quarterly forms, but there are no employees with the organization. And she was employed with the organization for 1 month, like 2 years ago. And that was it because she couldn't make payroll. But she's paying this woman a lot of money to file. And the woman never said to her, this is unnecessary. Or they never sat back and thought, is this something you need anymore? Let's look at what actually is a better fit for you. So that's kind of what inspired the email in reality is that sometimes you got to take a step back instead of just, going and just getting a new service because you think you need it or someone says you need it, but like really sitting back and reflecting. Is this useful? Is this something that our nonprofit needs right now?
That's a very good point.
So that's one thing.
No, I'm not. You continue.
Yeah, it's just so sad.
I have another add-on to that ideal, and it's not directly nonprofit related, but it's about the awareness of having consultants or paying people for services and making sure you're getting a bang for your buck or you understand what you're getting. So maybe, it's probably about 17 years ago, as a small business owner, I was trying to form this complete transparency. I was trying to take my first employee, official employee, paying the correct way. And I reached out to Paychex because we come from upstate New York, Rochester, New York, and Paychex is king in that area. And they were more than happy to sign me up for this employee. Don't go anywhere, Tiff, because I want you to come back on this. But sign me up for the employee, and lo and behold, she decided that she was moving out of town, and I ended up not hiring her, and she ended up not working for me. And I was totally ignorant to the process, knew nothing about it. And you'll probably find this interesting. And all that paperwork that Paychex had filed on my behalf for workman's comp and all that, well, they never rescinded. They never pulled that and stopped that stuff when I sent my messages that I wasn't going to go through it anymore, that I wouldn't need their services. They never rescinded or stopped all those processes, right? So I started getting letters and billings for like $4,000, $6,000 saying, "Hey, you owe us, you owe New York State Labor Department this amount of money." And I'm like, "No, I don't. I didn't know the filings. I didn't know the proper way of handling it, and I ended up having the New York State Labor Board come in and ask me to bring all my checks for the last year. It was not a good experience. So that may be an extreme, a little different from what you're saying, but you have to be very.
It's in the same vein.
It's scary. It was not a good experience. I mean, it turned out good, but ignorance is no exoneration from policies in the law, if you will. So spot on.
Yeah, I was going to write a post about this on LinkedIn because I'm noticing it a lot lately. I'm encountering new nonprofit founders who are engaging professionals like attorneys and accountants. But I actually did a video on this. I need to just go ahead and post it. And these people, just because it's their profession doesn't mean that they have a specialty of working with nonprofits.
Right.
It's a special kind of work.
Right.
And, they've been filing things incorrectly or not advising their clients, or because they may be doing it for free or a discount, they're not paying enough attention to the account. Right. And that still doesn't make it right. So just be careful, like who you engage. And it's so hard to know because that's why you engage a professional, because you expect them to tell you
Right.
Absolutely.
what's right and what's wrong, and so unfortunate. But yeah, I was going to put a video out on that. Just be careful. Just make sure the person you're working with does have experience with nonprofits.
And to the other point, just want be mindful, because when that trigger is pulled, when some of those forms are signed and submitted to the state or the county or the feds, you got to stop. If you're not doing this work or you didn't make any money, if that person's not working with you anymore, you got to still be mindful of what was filed on your behalf, because the liabilities can be a real deal. Amit, you're going to jump in?
Yeah, and I was going to say, well, I don't want to go too deep into this, but there's so many good points that you and Tiffany were just saying. And let me just say two things real quick. It's exciting to start a business, right? And all of us in this room at some level are business people, right? We're starting small businesses. We're working with people. We might be working at plate, whatever. And, when you start a business, one of the more exciting things to say is, hey, I got an employee. You know what I mean? I'm doing it, right? Because you want to pay the taxes. You want to do this. It's like, I'm making it. You know what I mean? And that enthusiasm is just so awesome. But what I always tell people is, and this is really important for this room too, this room is mostly startup not-for-profits, right? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And even startup, and it's the same thing as startup businesses. And I advise small businesses to not do any employees, okay, for the first year. You know what I mean? Now listen, if the IRS is in this room, let's chat. But what I mean by that is,
Right.
is exactly what you were saying, Mike, is that things change in a year. You know what I mean? Things happen. And once you get the ball rolling with all these things, it's costly, number one. It's time consuming, and it can be very frustrating if things change. In your situation, Mike, which is very common, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your employee said, you know what, I'm going to do something different. Or I'm just going to work, or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
That happens all the time. Yeah. And the minute you tell the state, I've got an employee, they see dollar signs, right? And they want to make sure that they get their money. In the treatment that the states do. Well, I can only speak for New York, because I've had most experience in New York. They are relentless. The state, once you start a business, they want to make sure they're collecting sales tax. They want to make sure they're, collecting workers' comp and unemployment tax and, all those things. And so what I tell people is, and this advice is for all startup businesses, including not-for-profits, is in the early days, try to engage friends and family or close people that you have, right? However it works out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the first year, just make them independent contractors. You know what I mean? See how it goes. You know what I mean? And like I said, if the IRS is in this room, that's not technically the correct way to go. But you want 6 months where you've got a track record and you know what it's going to be. You know what it's going to be. And then after that, you can do it. At that point, you really will be sure that, yep, we're going to be around. We're going to be doing it. Because if you do it right off the bat, it just becomes, it could be a big burden for people. You know what I mean? But I understand that. I understand the I don't know, the energy level, right? Because you're so excited. You know what I mean? You want to do it, and you want to do the right thing. 90% of the people, 99% of people want to do the right thing. And so I encourage people in the beginning, do not do that. Wait 6 months, right? Wait a little bit of time. And then once you're clear on how things are working and who's going to be with you and who's not leaving and who's this, then you can maybe engage something and kind of go from there. Because the minute you start the ball rolling, it's as you said, Mike, it's hard to unroll it or stop it or whatever.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
and those letters,
it's not a joke.
Those letters are not scary. Yeah, no, those letters are scary, right? You know what I mean? And you get demanding letters and this and that, and because the state is thinking you're fleecing them. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So it's right. And you get a letter that you owe $6,000 and you owe this, and it's just one of those things where anyway. So number one, in the first few months, just don't hire an employee immediately. See if you can pay them on an independent contractor basis, right? Ultimately, if you go past a few months or whatever, 6 months, then you need to really think about it because you want to do the right thing. But don't do it off the bat. You know what I mean? And then to Tiffany's point, and it's the last thing I'm going to say is that I think it's a great time. I think Tiffany brings up a fantastic point, as she always does, on working with professionals, right? Whether it be attorneys, CPAs, construction people, other consultants. It's important to understand what are they doing, right? What value are they bringing to the table? And it doesn't make sense. And it's a great time to review all those things. And again, one of my tests for these things is you should be able to call these people, right? And you should be able to get a meeting and talk about it. They should be able to explain what they're doing. And, even if you don't need to get all of it, but they should be able to explain what they're doing. In the situation where Tiffany was just recounting about filing those quarterly income tax withholding forms, right? And there was no wages, right? So it's like kind of having a job with no wages, right? That's pretty egregious, right? And the person should have said to them, listen, we don't really need to file this thing, or we can notify their, blah, 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 have that conversation. So
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're charging, right? And so I would encourage people to, again, accountants, or lawyers, any other professional fees, have an annual meeting with them and just kind of see where things are going. And especially if you're dealing with, I happen to be a financial person myself, this time of year is a great time to chat with your tax people and your accounting people, because they get really busy, in quarter one of every year, right? For obvious reasons. Right now is a time where they actually have a little bit of time. They're busy now too. But there really is a good time to just, and it doesn't have to be a meeting. It can be a 15-minute call, Zoom call. It could be a meeting, whatever you want to do. But I wholeheartedly agree with Tiffany to take an inventory of what we got and just have a quick chat with them.
And Amit, while you're there, don't go anywhere, because it's been a couple questions online that I'm fielding, and then Bobby just came up, but they had a question about this DAF, this donor advised funds. Does taking money from those take you into consideration if you look at the chat? So actually, Bobby, I'll have you come on really quick and express what your question was as it relates to donor advised funds, and then see if Amit can give us some professional insight on it.
Okay, thank you. So, hi, Amit.
Hey, how you doing? Okay, I know, Bobby.
Great. So, so I just found out, I haven't been in this room that much, and I wish I had been in more, but we might have discussed it another time. But so we were about to get a large grant, and we couldn't get it because it would push us it would tip us from a public charity, which the 501c3 is, into private status. And once you get pushed into private status, then the private foundation giving you money gets to lose their status. So I would lose my public status, they would lose their private status. So so then they decided, okay, if you can't take this money, then we'll put it into a DAF for you. And now I have an accountant in Chicago saying to me that the DAF is considered public support, because they're trying to figure out, the DAF people don't want to give me this, they're trying to figure out how much money I can take before I get tipped over this year. And they would hold it in that fund for as many years as I needed to, so I could take a little bit at a time. But I don't think I need to do that, because she's saying it covers public support. And this is something I didn't know, started my 501c3 back in 2012, and I did not know that you have to have, like 35%, about 35% public support to go along with your 65% private support. Because I'm sitting here, I'm going to just keep getting grants. I'm just going to keep getting grants. Well, thank God it balanced out, because the public schools in Chicago gave us enough money last year to balance it out, what we got last year. I'm like, oh my God, we've just been flying by the skin of our teeth without even knowing it.
Right. Well, no, Bobby, that's so you mentioned a couple of things there, just for background for the group. So you're a public charity, right? When you get gifts from the public, right? Contributions to the public, or you're a private foundation, and so you're still tax exempt, but it's a little different status, so to speak, right? Private foundations have more restrictive rules and how they can spend their money, what they literally have to spend, right? And there's a different filing as well. And it's not bad if you go into private foundation status, right? And as you said, as you were just mentioning, Bobby, it's 33 1/3% is the kicker. So if more than 33 1/3 of your support comes from one person, or one group of people, you would be, if less than 33 1/3 of your money comes from public folks, not, private, then you would become a private foundation. So that just give a little background in terms of what she was just talking about, And the DAF, and we've talked about them in this room, is a donor advised fund. That is where people give money to another entity, so they get tax deduction, right? And that entity then gives you money, right? You can give money, you can direct them to give you money for your charity. So just you throw out a few things. Just want to clarify for the group. So there should be. You've got to balance it out, right? You know what I mean? And what you just said is exactly right. You've got to balance it out, because if you don't, then then you become a private foundation, and you prefer not to do that. So no, I think what you're hearing is exactly right. And what the nice thing with the donor advised fund is what you just said, which is they can put like a pot of money and then do it over time, right? And you can kind of analyze that situation and say, is this, would this take us into private foundation status? Would it not? As opposed to an outright gift, which in that 1 year it would probably kick you into private foundation status.
Right.
So a donor advised fund can be a great way to sort of have your cake, right, and get a contribution, right, and also be able to keep your public charity status.
But what she's saying is the accountant here is saying that the DAF is considered public support, so that I can take all of it, the large sum of it now.
Yeah,
do you think that's true?
It depends how it's structured. You know what I mean? And we can chat offline if you'd like. But that is right. And some of them are structured in different ways. So just make sure you're going to have the right structure. I forget the exact terminology of it, but that's exactly right. So that's one way to sort of change the character of it, right? To be public support, right, and not a private gift. But it's got to be set up in a proper way to be able to do that. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if we can talk offline. We should talk offline. We've been talking in a minute, right? Let's go to catch up, right?
Yeah.
But that is a good thought. Yep, absolutely. And again, the big the takeaway I want people to have here is that there's a public charity and a private foundation, right? And we would prefer to be in the public charity because it gives you the maximum level of flexibility without going into all the details and minutia of it. We want to stay in that status. If you get one big gift from one foundation, you can become a private foundation. You won't even know it. You know what I mean? So there's more strict rules with that. So we want to try to, as Bobby was just saying, to balance it out. You know what I mean? And not go into that status. So I think that's an important distinction. And the DAF is a great way to take tax deductions. Many more people are utilizing that feature because many people don't itemize anymore on the taxes, so they don't take the tax deduction, right? So this way you can bunch your deductions and give it, to this charity, and then you can dole out over time. So that's one way to do that. Is that helpful?
It's very, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, very good.
Stuff,
and I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch.
Meat dropping the gems today. All right. That's what we doing. Good stuff, brother. We appreciate it. And I know, just to round that up, that was Gerald started out as a private nonprofit, so that was one of the problems. He couldn't qualify for certain monies because of being a private nonprofit. So he had the opposite of it, and then changed his status. But it was a pain in the behind to get. Yes.
Who is this? Oh, Gerald.
Gerald.
Is it Gerald?
Remember?
Remember? I actually helped him with that.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And he was was struggling because it was a process to get that status change. So I think that
I remember that. That's right.
Definitely something you want to be careful not to kind of step into that and then not know what you're kind of getting yourself into. And I'll tie it to what Tiffany was saying earlier, that you got to be mindful. You got to do your due diligence. You got to really understand what you're getting yourself into. But before I go further, Lisa, how are you doing this morning? Good to have you here. I didn't get to formally introduce and greet you properly. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I am well. It's glad to be here and listening to the wonderful advice from Amit. So thank you for sharing. And yes, looking forward to a great conversation. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but I'm here now.
How's Atlanta going?
Atlanta is good. It's cloudy today, but I'm headed to actually a nonprofit volunteer appreciation Christmas holiday party.
Oh, so, awesome! Send me some cake.
Yeah, but I really think it's really a good idea, for nonprofits to have an appreciation luncheon or some type of event at the end of the year, to honor the volunteers that work with them throughout the year. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to volunteer, and but also just passing on information for people who are listening, that as far as ideas for what nonprofits can do to honor or thank their volunteers.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. To give back and to show that appreciation is very, very important, because that's a great segue, Lisa. Almost like you set it up perfectly. To talk about what our show's topic, and again, we always kind of work the room. But the show's topic is today is about kind of beating the blahs of the holiday, right? How do you counteract the stress? So for all the good cheer and for all the good vibes and for all the giving and the sharing, it can be an extremely stressful time for a lot of folks. Actually, you got suicides, you have mental health crises, you have crime. A lot of things peaks at this time of the year because it's triggering and it causes a lot of people stress. So if the populations potentially we serve are dealing with a heightened level of stress, then us as small nonprofits and nonprofit workers and people in this social impact space, we're going to have the trickle effect of that stress. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit and talk about some strategies. And if it's something that you're seeing, or is it something that you might be feeling if you're willing to share? Amit, you were going to jump in? Amit? Oh, Amit's off. He's off mute by mistake. So my point being to you, going back, is it something that you're personally dealing with or you see? Tiffany, is something that you know, working with nonprofits for the amount of years you have, that the holidays can be a stressful time? It doesn't always have the same effect on everyone. I think it's something across the board that we as just individuals, the holidays can be a stressful time of the year for folks.
Yeah, I've seen it like where there's a lot of pressure because a lot of money is paid into the last month of the year and the last 3 days especially.
Right.
So there's a lot of pressure for fundraisers to meet those goals. And I do hear them talk about burnout and unreal expectations from their board or from their executive directors. Or if you're the executive director, like unreal expectations from the board. And trying to think. There was one more thing I wanted to say about that. Sorry, I'm driving. It was going to be really good.
It's all good. Well, you know how it is. Let it go and it'll come back to you.
Let me keep talking. Okay, let me keep talking. But the other thing I've seen a nonprofit recently do, which was amazing, was they're taking a whole month off. So they're taking from December 9th to January 7th. Now, this particular nonprofit just got a crazy amount of money. They just got $47 million.
Wow. Nice.
So that's good that's one of the things they're choosing to do with all of this money. But as you're designing your nonprofit, think about like how you can promote not just self-care, but providing a culture where your employees, your volunteers, your board feel appreciated and putting your money where your mouth is. Like the whole reason why we talk about fundraising is not just to make money to do your work, but to have an effective organization. And in order to have an effective organization, you got to have staff who are competent, who are well taken care of as well. Right. So, like, think more holistically. I know it's, you're just excited to get started now, and you're just trying to get something, so you can get going. But also think about the type of organization you want to be, the type of director, the type of CEO you want to be. You can create that environment where people will want to work for you and want to do good things and good services for your clients.
And I think that's spot on, to be practical in some cases within your resources, but also to be realistic and to be intentional. Right. And here goes a couple quick tips. Managing stress and supporting your team's wellness. So number one, prioritize self-care. All right. And when you hear the buzzwords, right, like wellness for some people is a buzzword and it sounds good on pamphlets, it sounds good on websites, but you really have to be intentional about it and understand that your reflection or experience of self-care may be very different from your team or the people that you work alongside. That's something and don't assume because you're not feeling it a certain way that your neighbor, your coworker, or your partner, for that matter of fact, is not feeling it the same way. Set realistic goals. I think that's another thing. We have sometimes goals. I think dream is big as the moon, but there's some things that come with that, because if you don't reach it, like, the quote says, even if you shoot for the moon and you don't hit it, at least you'll be among the stars. But for some people, that could create intense anxiety. It can really get us in a point where we're, getting to that point of burnout. And I got two more here that I'm going to share, and I'll share some more as the show goes on. Foster a supportive team environment. All right. Now, as Amit said, most of us here, many of us here, are small nonprofits where it's one or two or under 5 people in many cases. Fine. If it's 2 people, you still can check in on each other. You can still find out, are people okay? And I think sometimes we give the command, but we don't always check back in. Now, I'm the opposite. I give people directions, and because I probably am a little OCD, and then I'll go back behind you and I'm doing the work. And I had to say, like, listen, you ask the person for help, get out of their way, and that can create stress for me. So I think it's about being intentional. And this goes to this point right here. Great segue into this: delegate and empower. That is something I work on all the time. I've been working on for 30 years to delegate and empower. Even if a person or someone on your team does not do it perfectly, you still got to get out their way and let them do it, right? You can't teach people if you don't allow them to try and make some errors, right? You have to be able to come back and course correct, but you have to get out of people's way. You empower people when you delegate, because the organization isn't just about you. It's also about the people that work with you. That could be volunteers, that could be family members, that could be your board. You really got to let them have a say-so in it. And I know it can be hard to do when it's your baby, right? It's something that you started from the bottom and you're growing. Amit?
Yeah, you just reminded me of something I just saw on Twitter or X or whatever it's called nowadays. Right? Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm calling it Twitter. I mean, Elon. I'm calling it
Twitter. Right. The formerly known as. Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it was interesting. They asked Steve Jobs his management style.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't go into all of it. But what was interesting was exactly what you were just saying, which is, focus on, as leaders of the organization. I think it's obvious what I'm about to say, but hearing someone like him say that it makes it very crystal. The key decisions, there's only a handful of key decisions that are made by the management and staff on an annual basis. Handful is not the right word, but, he said in his example, it was like, we have 25 key decisions that we got to make on an annual basis, right? The vast majority of the decisions are made by the employees who are working on these projects and everything, And so it's a nice balance, right? Because as leaders of your not-for-profits, and again, we don't all have a staff like Steve Jobs had, right? At Apple and at Next.
Not at all.
He was actually at Next. He wasn't even at Apple at this point. He was at Next, which is the company he started after Apple.
Okay.
So yeah, the point of it is what you just said, Mike, is to try to delegate and to leave the daily stuff to people who are going to execute it. You know what I mean? And give them the the independence, and give them the education and the sort of the tools to do what they got to do.
Right.
And the management team, or you and the board, focus on the bigger decisions and do that in a good way. And I thought that was interesting. You know what I mean? And obviously, his organization is very different than a not-for-profit organization. But it was like, yeah, that's an interesting point. You know what I mean? And sometimes we have the tendency to get into things or micromanage or do things or whatever. You know what I mean? We all fight that, right?
Right.
But it's important to step back and say, you know what really matters? Where's the impact that I make the most, and can change some things, and try to focus on that. I struggle with that, to be honest with you, but it's important to think about that. I just relayed that story because I thought it was interesting, hearing his perspective on things and kind of where he's coming from,
And I think that's important to me as we talk about this. I mean, I think maybe not all, but I think most of us are dealing with it because it's your baby. It's this ideal that you came up with. It's this thing that you brought to fruition, right? And you had to, in many cases, lack of better terms, beg, borrow, and steal to get this thing off the ground. And sometimes people don't see your vision. And when people don't see your vision, sometimes it kind of gives us tunnel vision because we feel like we're in it by ourselves. And then you got these new ideals who want to help and they want to make a decision, but they may have a little different perspective. And then we get a little bit of protectionism where we want to kind of put our arms around it and say, hold on, back up a little bit, back up. And it's a part of growth. You cannot grow if there's no change. And especially with a small organization. I wish I really want to just call this like non-taxable businesses, because it's really just a business. But I know the term is what people are more aware of when we say nonprofits. But it's just a business. No matter what we call the tax designation, it's a business, and it has to be seen and run accordingly. And when we think of it, when people are trying to come into your business or your baby with these new ideals, and they may not see it exactly the way you see it, but they may bring something and see something you're missing. And I think that is a big deal for people who start small organizations. And because so many of us are entrepreneurs, right? We're really entrepreneurs at the end of the day, that we really have to give space for different opinions, for different ideals. And they may not look exactly the way you think they should look. And I'm going to go a little different direction. I'll take it. If you heard me say many times here, I'm spirit led. And my spirituality is a real big part of how I see my life and how I treat the world, right? It's a big part of my life. And I say it because it's the same thing. And they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him you got a plan, right? And I think many times the things that come to us don't look exactly the way that we think they should look. They don't come off the way that we think they should look, but many times they still work out. All right. They really work out in a great way. And I'm sharing that to say that the same idea with different visions that come to your organization, they may bring or see something in a light that doesn't look exactly the way you think it should look, but it may be perfectly fit to bring you to the next chapter. Tiffany, can you add to that? Or, you got to rein me in because I got my long-windedness. Any perspectives on that about bringing in new blood? You just said you had a new assistant. So I didn't go down that lane with you. I want to hear if you can share that, how that changes the dynamics of small organizations and small businesses.
Yeah, I have a lot to say because I'm learning through my process of hiring too. I didn't let anybody go, so I wasn't trying to imply that. I just added.
I'm staying in my lane now. I want to get in your business.
No. I added somebody team. Learning right now in the growth phase I'm in, that I need to not overwhelm the people that I bring on because I have always worked in a way where I do everything.
Right.
And I can't have that same expectation for, especially people who are part-time, to be able to hold everything and try to do everything. That's like unreal for them. And they're not the CEO. So I've learned, when I'm starting to bring people in, be very narrow about what I want them to do. And then as time goes on and we build trust, then I can build and add to that if needed. So I brought somebody in to hold me accountable to the things that I said that I was going to do. And we just meet every day. And that has really helped me focus and give a lot of intentionality around the work that I do. It's been amazing. So but just to your point, Mike, sometimes you just need, first of all, you need accountability.
Right.
There are things you're not going to catch, especially as life goes on, especially as you're entrenched in the work. There are things you're not going to see. If you're in it and you can't take that step back and have that 30-foot view or whatever, 1,000-foot view.
Tiff, hold that thought. Don't go to where I got a good quote the other day, and it said, "You can't see the picture when you're in the frame."
Mm-hmm.
That's
exactly.
That's it. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame, and sometimes you got to get out of the frame. The perspective is different. You can't see everything. But to your point, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you know what? It requires a level of humility to be able to, first of all, respect what other people say. Because some people don't want to hear what others have to say because of what they think about them personally, what they think about just themselves.
Right.
So it just, first of all, it takes a level of humility just to be able to say, I don't know everything, or I feel like I got this because I've been doing this all this time, but somebody might really have something important to say or may influence this. So I have to be open to hear, even if as I'm hearing it, I may be thinking, damn, I don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? I still have to be open to hearing other perspectives. And it may be that you still do the things that you're planning to do, but you are able to take a step back and consider all the things before you just move. And I know, for some people, for me, I don't move quickly. So I consider everything. I always look at other perspectives. And I know other people move much more quickly than me. So it may be harder to listen to people, but that's why you got to have that stuff built in.
Right.
I just always have processes where you're talking to your board, talking to your clients, talking to your donors, so that your decisions are influenced not just by what you think, because you only have one perspective. Okay, I'm done.
No, that's good stuff.
I was rambling.
Look, I had to catch myself. That's what, when you hear me jumping to you, I can hear myself starting to sound like I'm rambling, and I apologize for that. But So I'm gonna give you a perspective of, so you guys hear me talk about Toastmasters because I'm really it's a couple of speaking organizations that I've joined in the last year to really sharpen my tools as a public speaker and as a motivational speaker, because I really want to not just play with it, I want to be masterful with it. And one of the things about my Toastmasters group that we meet weekly on Fridays, and are giving a shout out to Born Toastmasters because that's the name of our club. And what I love about my club is we do Toastmasters has different positions, from sergeant at arms to the Toastmaster to the person who does the timing, the time person, to the person who in some clubs they'll have a reviewer, a person who gives you kind of the analysis of your speaking and talking touch points of what you could do better and what you did well. Well, our club uses the round robin approach, and after you do your speech, anyone who does a speech, we go round robin. The person is to give you one thing that was strong and one thing you could work on. And when I tell you, in the last 2 or 3 months, this has been such a powerful tool for me. It's been such accountability partnership to get this feedback, because we only see ourselves the way we see ourselves. And I think this analogy is great in general, any business, nonprofit or otherwise, that you have to get out of your circle a little bit. You got to get out the box a little bit to see yourself in a different light. So I did a speech yesterday. Speech I've been fine-tuning. You guys have heard some of the parts of the pieces of it, where I talk about the story brand and brand story and how it can be invaluable for your business and your marketing strategies. And I gave it was only a 10-minute speech, but as I said it, when I tell you they find the nuances, they find the hairs under the rocks, and give me great feedback. And then you think you got some. It's almost the equivalent of, if you've ever heard a comedian say that they're testing some material. This is that space that allows you to test material. Do you have a circle, a group, a team, a mastermind, whatever you want to call it, that allows you to test your material, test your thoughts? Now, in this space, you typically would say, well, that could be your board, of course, right? But even if it's not a formal board, who is that group of people for you? And I would say more than one person, right? I would say at least 2 people that give you a different perspective, that give you a really impartial and real. Sometimes you don't need to hear, like, what I don't like. I don't look for people to tell me what I want to hear. Right? I can record myself and hear what I want to hear. I need people who can sharpen iron with me and say, listen, that was great, but, right? And if it was just all great, then it's just all great. But that's typically not the case. Does anyone here today have that accountability circle that gives you feedback, that makes you see yourself outside of the box that we put ourselves in? Amit, Tiffany, Lisa, Jessica, anyone?
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm sorry. Oh, they're here. Yes. Yeah, I have a very good friend who I call my aunt, but she gives me feedback that's straight to the point, and as far as development and growing and ways to expand our nonprofit, but looking for unique ways to approach our journalism, but also, I have that one person. Then I have a close female friend who is like straight, no chaser, no, you should do this, you should, express tell your story this way. So, yes, I feel it's very important to have those people, to help you grow and expand, but also see things that you might not see, whenever you're out about to tell your story. Yes.
Good stuff. Tiffany and Meet, do you have those? They have that. I know you just talked about an assistant. Do either of you, Tiffany, let's go with you first, just so I don't have dead air where y'all waiting on who's going to talk first. Do you have that team? Do you have that circle that gives you real deal, and gives you a unbiased perspective?
Yeah, I have people who play certain roles in my life. So I have a straight shooter in my life too. Well, honestly, most of the women in my life are straight shooters and right to the point.
Okay.
So let me just say that. But I do have one friend in particular who I know, who I trust with my private information, and she won't tell me what I need to hear, and it's the same on my end. I'll do the same for her,
Right.
and so we confide in each other that way. And I always like to listen to my team. I like to ask questions. I tell them, please push back, because I realize that I'm very cautious about things, and I'm hard headed.
Do you overthink?
So,
I'm going to ask you a redundant question. Do you
Yeah.
overthink?
Oh yeah, I'm a Virgo, right?
Right. I overthink
So-
everything. I overthink everything.
Before I do anything, I anticipate 5 years down the line.
Right. Right.
And it's like,
Which
wow,
can be
live in the
paralyzing
moment.
in some cases. It can
Yeah,
be
I'm
very
learning how to live in the moment now.
absolutely the
It's hard. It's
analysis
so hard.
paralysis. I look. I wish I had that shirt on, the Analysis Paralysis Club, because I know I'm a sponsor of it. So absolutely. Amit, do you have that circle, that tribe, that one or two confidants that really keep it 100 with you when you need to get real feedback?
Not really. Actually, as Tiffany was relating her story earlier, I was thinking, man, I need that friend or that person that she was talking about, because I really need that.
Right.
I think I have a pretty good client and friend circle. But on my business part of life, you know what I mean? I guess maybe it's business and personal. I actually don't, and that's what I really need. And because I think all the things that everyone's been saying in the room, the overthinking, the micromanaging, all the things that we've all been talking about in this room, I'm guilty of those things. You know what I mean? I like to think I'm not, but at some point I am. So, you know what I mean? And so I think, I do need someone in my life. It's hard to find people who, from a business perspective, I think, that can advise me in that way. I'm open to it. I just haven't found someone like that. So no, I'm open. If anyone was willing to put up with my BS on a weekly basis, give me a call, because I think I do need that. Honestly, I do.
Absolutely.
Keep me in line. Keep me accountable. Keep me in line.
I think it's such a big deal of me, and I can hear you because we talk about certain things. It's a little caution of saying I don't really want to say this, but I don't really have, you guys may know or you may hear. So in my life, Gerald has been that person, and I can be that person for him. But he's definitely that person for me that kind of is the kick in the ass. Excuse me for saying it that way, but the kick in the ass person to be like, man, listen, stop and get it done. Just do it. Do it.
Right.
And I'm mentioning it to you just to say that if you don't have it, the challenge for today is, if you don't, start to identify. Maybe you don't go to these people and say anything, but think of if you were to put 2 or 3 people. It doesn't have to be 3. It could be 2. It could be 1. I would say at least 2, to think about who can be your accountability tribe. As you see, I put in the chat there, your accountability squad. I think that's a big deal. I think as I go into the new year, and you guys are going to see a text in a minute, because I'm doing backdoor stuff, front door here. But I want to meet with the 4 of you so that we can talk about some stuff as it relates to this. And we have not done that. And I'm not saying long or arduous or drawn out, but at least 45 minutes to really say, going into this new year, can you guys afford me 45 minutes to tear it up and say, Mike, every week's not working for me. And I may be like, why are you talking about this live? But I'm talking about it live because this is a part of it. I think we do something very special. I think we have a really powerful platform here. I think we share amazing information. If you could see my inbox, that's what I should do sometime on social. Share some clips of my inboxes of the things that people say back and some of the feedback we get of really positive information. And it may seem so minute to one of us, like, oh yeah, I knew that. Like Amit, sometimes I know you're like, you're so kind and so sharing with information. But I want to say it. You are a CPA that's been doing nonprofit work for over 25 years, and you're dropping jewels that people charge a hell of a lot of money for, right? Tiffany, Lisa, me, we all have really special expertises in our area, and we are sharing the information. And I'm only saying that to say that it's a big deal, and I don't take it lightly. And I don't listen when I don't see you guys. I'll be like, no, I know they can't be here today because I don't have them here 3 times back to back. But it's invaluable information, and I just share that to say the challenge again, going for the new week, going for the next week, but think about going into the new year, and we'll talk about it in the next couple of weeks. Who is your accountability squad? You need to have that. It really it really makes you a better player, right? If you think of it in the terms of sports, if you don't have anybody to tell you about your running game or how your passing game is going, or that your speed is diminished sometimes you have to have a person who'll say, listen, pick it up. Come on, yo, you're doing amazing. They motivate you, but they also sometimes pull your coat a little bit and say, hey, you can do a little better than that. You can do a little more than that. And I think that's invaluable. One thing I like to say is that sometimes you need a hug, sometimes you need a pat on the back, and sometimes you need a kick in the ass. And we all need it. We all need it. And I'm not telling you who that needs to be or how that needs to be, but you definitely need it. And if you don't have it, you can be very much it can, in my opinion, it can really damper the level of effectiveness you can be, or the level of success that you reach. Because if we're only in our head, we are only seeing it through one perspective. And I just share that to say, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? And in my nonprofit Chico's term, you're leaving money on the table. And I don't think we want to do that. Jessica, you were coming off.
Yeah. I know we're going to be wrapping up our conversation today. And a contribution is strain and recovery comes to mind, something that builds into teams and different conversations, and even the accountability you're talking about. I think it's valuable to also evaluate the way we have those off seasons or perpetual seasons where we build in this strain and recovery, just like we do in other things, our workouts and our other things. It's the same way in how we're functioning with engagement opportunities, high value calls like this. And maybe it's an opportunity to factor that in to be more effective, where it might pivot, it might not stay the same time, or we even pivoted with how long the calls go now as like micro changes. But, being part of the community and accountability and all that being important to me too, and personal growth and development, I think it would help just to walk away with evaluating how we are leading ourselves in our own strain and recovery, and ways that there's little things we can adapt that it might not be such a big lift to then make the changes.
I appreciate it. And I think at the end of the day, we all want to be a better version of ourselves. We all want to be successful. We all want to have peace. We all want to have joy. And the crazy part is, I think it's a special place in this particular arena or space because we're doing it for other people. We're helping people help people, right? We're making impact. And it doesn't matter if it's one person or 1,000, you're making impact. You may be changing a life. You may be lifting someone up. You may be standing in the gap for someone who doesn't have the ability to. And I take that as an honor, right? And I hope you do too. It's not just work, it's an honor. To be able to stand in space and really support people is a real honor. It's something to be very proud of. And I hope that you're looking at it that way, because you're literally world changing. And that may sound like cliche or just hyperbole, but I really don't believe it that way. I believe that some of the work that we're doing around the country, as I talk to different people and meet different people, you just can't measure the impact, right? It's no litmus test. There's no point of measurement that says, hey, that's perfect, because no, you've done amazing stuff. And I just can't tell you how much it matters. Right. So before we close out, any final thoughts? Let's go around the room. Tiffany, Amit, Lisa, Jessica, any final thoughts here? Tiffany, kick it off.
Oh, no, it's great conversation. And just remember, y'all, be careful. If you have an accountability team or get services, just also hold them accountable. So if you're paying for something, just make sure you know what you're paying for, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
I love that.
And build a community around you, so that even if you don't know what questions to ask, just by being around other people who are in similar situations as you get to learn and know what to ask.
Good stuff. That was Chico right there. Make sure your accountability team is being accountable. Good stuff. Amit, final thoughts.
Yeah, no, the idea of that someone, I think you or somebody mentioned the accountability team. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's interesting. I never really thought of it in that way, right? And I think I need to implement that. I think in 2024, I think, and it's a two-way street, right? I want to help other people as well, but I like that. I would encourage people to just think about that a little bit because, as you said, sometimes you need that push, sometimes you need whatever. But also, keep us on track. You know what I mean? Keep you on track in terms of your goals and what you want to accomplish, because there's so much noise out there. There's so much noise, and it's so easy to get. I'm just speaking for myself. It's so easy to get distracted or to do this or take your eye off the ball. So, anyways, I'm definitely gonna think about this further in 24. Having some sort of team that again, it's not just me taking. I want to contribute as well to the team, right, and do it. And have some sort of structure to it. So thanks for the concept of that, Mike and team. And I would encourage people to seriously think about that because you got to get a little vulnerable too, right?
That part.
You got to be able to say, right? You got to be able to say, hey, I'm falling short. I'm not working, or I'm not, and that's hard. That's hard to course correct. Anyway, so think about it. I'm definitely going to think about it. And listen, have a great weekend. I will catch you. I'll catch you next weekend.
Absolutely. Jessica, any final thoughts?
My final is to reevaluate your life balance, where you can make adjustments there, focusing on what you can control, who you are becoming in the process, and your foundation. That's that's my final. Thank you.
Good stuff. And of course, Lisa, last but definitely not least, any final thoughts?
Yes, I want to say as nonprofit founders, I would highly recommend that you. I'm sorry, I'm driving and the navigation is speaking. I would recommend that you write down what your goals are for next year, but also think about where do you want to be on December 9th, 2024 with your nonprofit, and just keep it in a place where you can have access to it throughout 2024 and just stay focused on those goals. And then also, I want to give a huge shout out to Tiffany because her newsletters every Friday always give very good information as far as grants that from organizations that are providing grants to nonprofits that I've never heard of. So, Tiffany, thank you so much. And I am on that Let's Paul grant application this weekend, and hopefully I'll have some success with it.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much, folks. We will see you next time. I want to leave you with a word. In the world of nonprofits, small steps lead to big changes. Stay informed, stay inspired, and remember, every little bit of effort contributes to the greater good. You are making a difference in this world, and that may sound cheesy, and I'm cheesy with it because we appreciate you. And as you hear me say often, the work won't wait. Have an amazing weekend, you guys. We'll see you next Saturday morning at 11 a.m. for Nonprofit Cheat Codes. Go to nonprofitcheatcodes.com. And if you are on the streaming, make sure you go to nonprofitcheatcodes.com and sign up for our emails so you get all the updates and information. And we will see you when we come back. I hope that you're treating each other good and treating yourself good as well. See you next time.
Have a good weekend.
See you later.
This has been a Pep Talk Club production in conjunction with MSI Communications. Opinions expressed are of individual contributors. All rights are reserved. 2021. Rebroadcast of any portion is strictly prohibited.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.